Hey y'all, my name's Freddie and I'm 21 years old. Growing up wasn't exactly a fairy tale for me. If you had to sum up my relationship with my dad, Carl, in one word, it would be toxic. We used to be close, but everything changed when he divorced my mom and left us in a pile of financial ruin. It felt like he abandoned me, like I was just an afterthought in his pursuit of a new life of chasing women and cars and whatever else old bachelors do with their lives. After the divorce, my mom, Yasmin, and I struggled for a bit. We went from living a comfortable life to fluctuating between decent stability and barely making ends meet. It was tough watching my mom work long hours to put food on the table and keep a roof over our heads. But somehow she never lost hope. She worked tirelessly trying to turn our situation around. And you know what? She did it. Against all odds, my mom rose like a phoenix from the ashes. She started a small business that eventually grew into a successful company. With her hard work and determination, we went from barely getting by to living a life of comfort. It was incredible to witness her transformation and see her resilience in action. But life had a cruel way of testing us. Just when things seemed to be falling into place, my mom fell ill. It hit us like a ton of bricks. The woman who had fought so hard to provide us was now battling a formidable enemy. It was a devastating blow, and it turned our lives upside down. For months, I fought alongside my mom, clinging to the hope that she would recover. We did everything we could and explored every possible treatment option. But sometimes fate has its own plans. One fateful day, my mom passed away, leaving behind a void that would never be filled. As the only child, I was left to navigate the overwhelming aftermath of her death alone. Amidst the grief, I discovered that she had given her house to me. It was her final gift, a symbol of her love and the life we had built together. Stepping into that house and knowing it was now mine felt like stepping into her embrace. It was the place where we shared laughter, tears, and precious memories. But what stung the most was that neither Carl nor his new wife, Rita, bothered to attend my mom's funeral. It was as if he had erased her from his life, as if she had never mattered to him at all. That callous indifference fueled a burning anger within me. How could they be so heartless? How could my father not consider how awful everything was for me? Months had passed, and the wound of my mom's absence remained raw. I tried to find solace in memories and the support of friends, but bitterness lingered. The house she gave me, as beautiful as it was ridden with bittersweet nostalgia. I tried to rehabilitate myself in the home, learning to live peacefully with the memories that haunted me, and I began making this new house my own. Slowly but surely, things were getting better day by day at least. And then, one day, out of the blue, Carl showed up at my doorstep. It had been several months since my mom's funeral, and he dared to waltz into my life as if nothing had happened. I opened the door, my eyes meeting his. There was a flicker of surprise in his gaze, perhaps seeing the pain and resentment etched on my face. He tried to smile, but it faltered. We stood there in uncomfortable silence, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavy in the air. My anger and disappointment simmered beneath the surface, threatening to spill over until he finally said, sheepishly, "Hey, Freddie, can we talk?" I stared at Carl, his presence in my house stirring up a whirlwind of emotions within me. He greeted me with an apologetic tone, but it felt disingenuous. I could see right through his feeble attempts to bridge the chasm that had formed between us over the years. "Spare me the act, Carl. I'm not buying into your pathetic apologies. You walked out on us and left us struggling while you enjoyed a life of luxury, and now you dare to show up here like nothing happened?" Carl's face flushed with anger, transitioning from guilt to a defensive posture. "You need to show me some respect, Freddie." Respect? I couldn't help but scoff. Respect had to be earned, and he had lost all of it the day he abandoned our family for his desires. "Respect is something you earn, Carl. You can't demand it after all the pain you've caused. You made a choice to prioritize your own selfish needs over your family. As our tense exchange continued, I noticed a familiar figure approaching from the street where his car was parked. It was Rita, stepping out of the luxurious car that reeked of opulence. Seeing her only fueled my resentment, reminding me of how my father consistently chose a life of extravagance over the well-being of his flesh and blood. She finally arrived at the doorstep, and I said, "And what brings you here, Rita? You two didn't even have the decency to show up to my mom's funeral, but you're here now, huh?" "We were busy. We had other commitments, Freddie." Her feeble excuse only further infuriated me. Busy and other commitments were poor justifications for their absence at my mom's funeral. It spoke volumes about their disregard for her memory and our family. Anger and frustration surged as I gazed at them standing before me. They hadn't changed. They were still the same self-absorbed individuals who flaunted their wealth all around town, indulging in endless hedonism. Their presence in my house, pretending as if nothing had happened, fueled the fire of resentment burning within me. I finally asked them, "What the hell do you two want from me? Haven't you done enough to cause me pain?" "Look, Freddie, we need to talk. The truth is, things aren't as glamorous for us as they seem on social media. We're struggling, even to the point of selling that Aston Martin you see outside just to scrape together some money for something very important." Rita, who had been fairly silent until now, nervously removed her coat, revealing a protruding belly, indicating she was maybe 3 months pregnant. Shock coursed through me, mixed with the rage that had been building up. "Are you telling me that you impregnated someone young enough to be my sister? What kind of sick joke is this? You're way too old to be doing this type of irresponsible crap." Carl, now fighting back, unleashed a series of hurtful remarks, hitting below the belt. His words left me stunned, unable to comprehend how my father could be so callous. "You want to talk to me like I'm some stupid kid? You think I'm you? That's why I left you and your mom, because I couldn't stand to be around an idiot like yourself. You're worthless and hopeless and useless. I didn't do anything wrong or illegal, so shut your trap." Even Rita seemed to disapprove of the berating I received. I was just standing there, refusing to believe that this man had just spoken to me in this way, in my home. "Get out." "Excuse me?" "Get out before I call the cops. Get off my property." "Actually, speaking of that, that's why we're here." "What do you mean?" "I've decided that I have to kick you out of this house, Fred. It's the only way." As if I wasn't already fuming, I was now seething with rage. I was probably foaming at the mouth because Rita looked like she just saw a rabid animal and was clutching her belly protectively. "You're an idiot, Carl. This house was given to me by my mother, the woman you abandoned. You think you can just waltz in here and take it away over my dead body? You think you're entitled to this house? Well, think again, Freddie. We're kicking you out because we need a bigger and better space to raise our growing family." "What about that ridiculous condo you live in, huh?" "Come on, Freddie. You know that was no place to raise a child. And besides, we have to downsize due to the financial troubles your father mentioned. This blue Suburban is perfect for us. Right in the budget, and perfect for raising a growing family. We won't be as extravagant, but we'll live a nice life." His words were like daggers, penetrating deep into my wounded heart. The audacity of his plan and the thought of him pushing me aside for a new family fueled the fire of anger within me. How could he want to play house now, after leaving us just a couple of years ago? He's insane. "You think I'll just leave? My name is on the deed, Carl. This house is legally mine, and you can't take it away." "Are you sure about that, Freddie? You underestimate my connections. I happen to know that county clerk quite well. We play golf together, you know. A simple phone call and your name on that title deed could just magically disappear." The audacity of his threat sent a higher surge of anger coursing through my veins. How dare he use his connections to manipulate the system and rob me of what was rightfully mine? You're willing to stoop that low, to use your corrupt practices to steal this house from me? You're no better than a common criminal. My voice thundered, the force behind my words pushing them back, forcing them to confront the consequences of their actions. They stood there, momentarily taken aback by the sheer intensity of my anger. But as the realization of their defeat began to sink in, their demeanor shifted. Carl and Rita exchanged uneasy glances, their expressions revealing a flicker of fear. They knew they had underestimated my determination to protect what was mine and my mother's. With a final burst of courage, I yelled at them with every ounce of strength I had left, demanding that they leave my property immediately. Their faces paled and they finally turned on their heels, retreating from the house they had so audaciously tried to claim. Even though he was fearful, Carl made it a point to continue to threaten me with all the ways he was going to ruin me. You're going to be sorry for not cooperating, Fred. I tried being nice, but I can see that you don't want that. Just wait, your day is coming. You'll be licking the bottom of people's shoes when I'm done with you. As the door slammed shut behind them, I was left standing there, my heart pounding in my chest, a mix of anger, frustration, and determination fueling my every breath. I knew that this battle was far from over. In the solitude that followed, a sense of frantic urgency settled over me. I was aware of the power and influence my father possessed and was far greater than my own. His connections and his desire to bend the rules posed a formidable threat to my dreams of holding on to this house. I understood the uphill battle I faced. It wasn't just a fight for a physical space. It was a battle against the injustices of a system that favored the privileged and the well-connected. But I wasn't willing to surrender. I would fight tooth and nail to protect the legacy my mother had left me. The house represented not just bricks and mortar, but the memories, love, and sacrifices she had made for us. It was a symbol of my identity and moving towards freedom. With renewed determination, I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the arduous journey ahead. The fight for justice had just begun. Weeks had passed since that fateful confrontation, but the storm was far from over. Carl, relentless in his pursuit of control, continued to bombard me with hateful messages and threats. I chose to ignore them, recognizing their venomous intent. Instead, I focused my energy on gathering evidence, documenting every interaction, and preserving every word from his texts. These would serve as my ammunition, my armor, when I finally took the battle to the higher-ups. I embarked on a journey to the county clerk's office one day. This was the lion's den, the very heart of the corruption that threatened to rob me of my inheritance. But I refused to be intimidated. I had to face the man who had the power to make my father's deceitful plan a reality. As I entered the county clerk's office, my heart pounded in my chest, a mix of anxiety and determination coursing through my veins. I approached the clerk's desk, where a middle-aged man with tired eyes looked up at me, seemingly unfazed by my presence. "Excuse me, sir. I'd like to speak with you about a matter of great importance." The county clerk regarded me with a mix of curiosity and skepticism, his gaze scrutinizing my appearance. "What can I do for you?" Summoning every ounce of courage, I launched into my plea, the words pouring out of me like a torrential downpour. I shared my story, recounting the struggles my mother and I had endured, and the abandonment we had suffered at the hands of Carl, his supposed golf buddy. I spoke of Carl's absence at my mother's funeral, and I showed him the threats that continued to plague my existence, as well as the fear that consumed me. As the county clerk listened, a change seemed to come over his face. The mask of indifference dissolved, replaced by a look of genuine concern. "Please, sir, I beg you to understand the truth. Carl has manipulated the situation, downplaying his role in our suffering. I know that he's been trying to convince you to change the title deed, but I implore you to see through his deception and not allow him to take what rightfully belongs to me. I'm all alone, and I need all the help I can get." The county clerk's eyes softened. reflecting a glimmer of sympathy that I hadn't expected. He leaned back in his chair, taking a moment to absorb the gravity of my words. I had no idea. I have a son who's about your age, you know. I simply couldn't imagine what you're going through. I had no idea that this was a true story. Carl always presented himself as the victim. He was saying that you're a spoiled brat and he wanted to teach you a lesson, but his words felt off to me. Maybe that's why I was so hesitant when he called me in for his favor. I knew that something was up, but I didn't know it was this bad. His words were like a balm to my wounded soul, a confirmation that my pleas hadn't fallen on deaf ears. At that moment, I sensed a flicker of hope, a belief that justice could prevail. Thank you for listening, sir. Your understanding means more to me than words can express. I only ask that you consider the truth behind the facade Carl has crafted. The county clerk nodded, his expression resolute. Listen, I'll do what's right. I'm so sorry that all of this happened, but if I do this for you, you got to ensure that you won't tell anyone about me considering changing the title deed as a favor for a friend. I like helping my friends out, and sometimes it isn't very legal. So if you tell anyone, be rest assured that I will find you and deal with you myself. I gulped, terrified by the man before me. Honestly, sir, I could care less if you're not doing everything by the books. I just want to make sure that my house is mine, and it will forever remain mine, without my father's control or influence. Then consider it done. I've heard your story, boy, and you seem to have gone through a lot. You won't even have to question the house's ownership again. Leaving the county clerk's office that day, a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. Though the battle was far from won, I held on to a glimmer of hope that justice would prevail. With the truth finally exposed, my chances of reclaiming what was rightfully mine grew stronger. I made my way to my stupid father's house. I saw from the large windows that the house practically looked empty. All of the fancy furniture that they once had was now gone, presumably sold so that they can prepare for the baby. Finally, after ringing the doorbell for what seemed like hours, Carl came up to the door and opened it. He looked terrible. He looked like he hadn't slept or showered in days. And seeing my face only made his mood worse. What the hell do you want? Well, Carl, I just came to tell you something. I'm keeping the house, and there's no way that you're going to kick me out, so you better stop trying. Like hell you are. That's my house. I'm your father, and I say so. You're a cockroach. You're not my father. Yeah? Well, let's see what the county clerk has to say about all that. I told you that I can get whatever I want. I proceeded to tell him what transpired earlier, and as I got deeper and deeper into the story, Carl's face twisted more and more into shock and horror as he saw his plan unraveling at the seams. And he said that he'd look into it and ensure that the house is mine, because guess what? I have the documents right here. I began laughing, celebrating my hard-earned victory, and I showed him the documents, the title deed stamped with all of the approving bodies, as well as my name and my signature indicating that the house is mine. Carl couldn't stop stammering and tripping over his words. He began to look completely defeated. Well, now I can't expose that bastard for wanting to help me out, because I'll also get in trouble. Looks like you and Rita have a lot of house hunting to do. Actually, she's going to leave me. What? Why? What happened? She saw that I wasn't getting your house fast enough, so this morning she told me that if our names weren't on the title deed by the end of the week, she'd leave me. And now that you've told me all about this, she'll leave me for sure. Damn, sucks to be you then. Freddie, please let me live with you now. I can't be here anymore. Everything is too overwhelming. I haven't slept. I haven't eaten. Rita is driving me crazy with her ultimatums. I've been so stressed out since the friend that was supposed to help me wasn't responding to my messages. He kept beating around the bush. And after your stunt today... Stunt? Yes, your stunt. How could you be so selfish? I told you that we were struggling. You should have helped me. You hopeless and inconsiderate bastard. How dare you talk to me like this, acting as if I owe you something, when all you did was tear me down? It's crazy. You're 100 years old and you still act like a child. If you think I'm letting you stay with me, you got another thing coming. Check in at the homeless shelter. I think they have available spaces. Freddie, please. She's going to leave me, and she's going to take everything. I need a place to stay. I'm begging you. I don't care. You're nothing to me. I hope you get everything you deserve. You think you could step all over people and act the way you do? Ever heard of this thing called karma? You're getting what's coming to you, Carl. I just pray that God lets me watch as your life goes to ruins. I didn't quite figure out what happened when Rita divorced Carl and took a lot of his money, but I do know that he began to look worse and worse, as well as develop alcohol addiction. She must have drained him dry and left him hopeless. Word had got out that he was quite the sly and conniving person, willing to be corrupt whenever it benefited him, and let me tell you, that eventually bit him in the behind as he became somewhat of a social pariah. Don't get me wrong, he seems to be doing decent. He's holing up in a hotel somewhere trying to figure out his next move, but I know one thing. He will never face me with the same anger and entitlement he once did. He knows I'm not a kid anymore, and I have some skin in the game. I'm willing to fight for anything that my mother left behind, and if he's stupid enough to try me again, I'll make sure that he'll always stay on the ground.